So this is a fun little series, isn't it? We get to look at movies and relate them to our lives and take on biblical concepts and line them up. So I'm pretty excited to present this one because it's a love story, and I am going to show you how today it actually is your love story. So in order to do that, we're going to get started by kind of describing something that I've noticed in us. We are created to be loved. We crave it. We go to great lengths to go after it. A lot of times it can feel like that little hole in your heart, that you're just missing something. You know, you look for something to fill it. It might be, in a spouse, you might look for kids, you might look to try to do different hobbies that might fill it, or, some people go to drugs and alcohol, or bad relationships, or climbing the corporate ladder, and it never seems to work. So, what does work? What if what you thought was truly missing was actually something already pursuing you, that was already loving you unconditionally? Would you change how you do things? Well, to get through our story, we are going to look at Cinderella, and she has a royal component to the story. So to kind of establish a framework, I wanted to kind of give us an idea of what royal is, because as Americans, that's not something we're super familiar with. We don't have a king or queen. And so being kind of studious and liking definitions, I started there. So the first one is royal, which means to have a status of king or queen or member of their family. Someone who is sovereign, who's descended from or related to kings or line of kings. And then there's royalty, which is a state or quality of being royal and or to resemble royal. So what would you expect from someone who's royal? They represent something to the people, generally something higher than themselves. They hold a great deal of value. They lead and direct their country's operations. They set the tone for the country. They are deemed worthy because of their title and authority. They tend to have a lot of wealth. And they're the face of the country and its government. Their decisions impact daily lives. Loyalty that you see under someone who's being ruled by a king or queen can be very strong. People believe in them, and they look to them to, do well for them, for their families. One of the families that we might hear a lot of in our media is actually Great Britain's Queen Elizabeth, Prince William, and then his wife, the Duchess of Cambridge, and of course their little ones. So I have them up there. My personal favorite is Kate, because not only is she gorgeous, but she's fierce. And here in America, we don't have something like that. So we might compare our nation's leaders, such as President Obama or Bill Gates. Tony. Different leaders, right? But the difference is we don't see the same lifetime loyalty. We might see it in other things, such as sporting events and hobbies or religious beliefs and political, sides and stuff. So being the Bears fan that I am, I understand this because it takes a lifetime. But yeah, like Bears, Red Sox, those guys, they're pretty driven. So, and it could be the difference that we see here in America is just that we see changeover with our leaders, versus in those countries, it's a lifetime commitment. Both the people are loyal to their leaders, and their leaders are very loyal to their people. So why do I bring that up? Well, it can also be someone that you see as out of your league, and that could be something that we think about here in just a minute as we proceed. So coming back to our love story, we can talk about Jesus, because he is our prince in our love story. So let's get to know him a little bit if you haven't already. I love this picture of him. This was actually done by a little girl, and I think it adequately represents him. And so some things about him. His kingdom stretches farther than any other. He has anything, any access to anything that he could want. You know, he actually sees gold as his pavement, and we see that as precious, and it's like his building material, you know? Interestingly, his kingdom operates from a place of service and love, which is different than what we see in kingdoms that in our world. And he actually spends some time on this when he came to earth, because even back then, the Jews didn't understand this. You see, they thought he was going to come in on horseback with servants and all these riches, and he was going to overtake their government and reestablish them, and that's not what he did. He came back as a normal person and grew up like the rest of us. So then he kind of talks about it. We learn things from him, and like the kingdom of heaven belongs to the children in Matthew 19:14. And then in Mark 9:35 through 37, he says, anyone who wants to be first, he must be the very last and the servant of all. He took a little child and had him stand among them. Taking him in the arms, he said to him, whoever welcomes one of these little children in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me doesn't welcome me, but welcomes the one who sent me. So we see a very different kind of king, a very gentle man, one who loves children, who does things in our eyes that are unexpected. He values servanthood over riches, and he expects people to be slow to anger and quick to forgive. We see the wisdom in him when he stands up for the Pharisees. I get a kick out of that. I mean, they bring in a town sinner, and they say they want to throw rocks at her. And he says, well, he is without sin, throw the first stone. And they all go away, and it's just him. And he's like, and I don't condemn you either, so go home and sin no more. So he's very forgiving. And then he turns around with the Pharisees, and they're playing games with them. And which is the most important commandment, Lord? And he says, love your neighbor. Or what about when he's on the Sabbath and he heals somebody? I think he liked to get under their skin. The Bible refers to him as the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Prince of Peace. And this is our Prince. So, now on to the other character who's very obvious in our story, Cinderella. So we see in the movie that she is able to grow up in a very nice home, at least initially, and understands love, and she has her own like paradise of sense. When all of a sudden, her world is rocked to the core, and she finds herself an orphan under the care of a stepmother who's not very nice and some stepsisters who could care less about her. And her name at the beginning was Ella, but we're about to see here how it becomes Cinderella.
I thought breakfast was ready.
Oh, it is, madam. I'm only mending the fire.
Oh, future, can we not be called until the work is done?
As you wish.
Ella, what's that on your face?
Madam?
It's ash from the fireplace.
Do clean yourself up.
You'll get cinders in our tea.
I've got a new name for her. Cinderella.
I couldn't bear to look so dirty. Oh, dirty Ella.
Cinderella. That's what we'll call you.
Oh, girls, you're too clever. Who's this for? Is there someone we've forgotten?
It's my place.
Oh, it seems too much to expect you to prepare breakfast, serve it, and still sit with us. Wouldn't you prefer to eat when all the work is done, Ella? Or should I say Cinderella?
So, Cinderella is a made-up name, but names have power. And this one means little ashes. So in a moment, she goes to feeling probably worthy still to not. She is told she is worthless by doing this and how they treat her. That she's nothing. She's dishonored in her own home. She can't even sit at her own dinner table. Her mother later tells her to go to her new room, which is a dirty, abandoned attic. And at this point in the movie, you see that she's just sunken in and taking what they've said and starting to believe the lies. She's actually quoted as saying, well, at least up here, they can't bother me. Because she realizes it takes no effort if she just does what they say. You know, she just is who they say she is. She's almost happy to embrace the less than ideal situation. So, in our love story, I'm going to show you how I see us as Cinderella. And here's why. Because at some point in our lives, even if we were brought up with love and kindness and all those good things, the world hits. And we get this view on us that says we're not good enough. Things that there's no hope for us or that we have to strive really hard. Right? So we might start thinking we have to be fixed constantly. You know, maybe you're looking in the mirror thinking, if I only lost 5 pounds, if I only made some more money, or if I could go to the gym and lift 50 more pounds. Maybe if my nose was a little smaller, I could get surgery for that. Would I be enough? Or what if you're in front of that mirror and you're checking your eyes that you think are so droopy, and your daughter runs in and says, Mommy, Mommy, you're so beautiful. And you're like, that's nice, honey. You don't even catch what she says because you're so focused on what you're trying to fix. Maybe in your mind, you think that you're just too broken. You don't know what I did. You don't know what I struggle with. I'm not going to be good enough. That job is horrible. I'm stuck. Money is my enemy. You've lost all vision of who you're meant to be. And unfortunately, you've taken on an orphan mentality. So, with an orphan mentality, you might struggle to connect with others. You might carry jealousy or a sense of entitlement. You may strive to boast about yourself so that others can look at you and take notice. You may operate on a perspective that's based on an insecurity. If any of this, any aspect of this sounds like something you might be thinking, you might be taking on the name Cinderella. So, going back to our fairy tale. Cinderella, we see, beats all odds and gets to go to the ball. And she gets to meet her prince. In our love story, this could be when you get to know who Jesus is, our prince. You get to taste his goodness, and you see his love, and you embrace everything about him, and you see that there's something good and that someone has saved you. You have this wonderful season with him where it could be weeks or months or years where you just devote everything to him and life is amazing. And even when it's hard, it's good because you have him. When all of a sudden, the clock strikes midnight and your world is rocked and changed. So picture yourself running like they do in the movie when Cinderella's running away from her prince, right? and you start hearing the words of the world. You're not good enough. What Jesus did when he died on the cross, he didn't die for that. That's just too much. That's too unforgivable. You remember that one time? Do you really think that the guy we just talked about, the royal guy, the one who has all kingdom, the one who could have anything he wants, he's really going to choose you? We get all these lies. And they pound us and pound us and pound us, and we feel so dark and lonely, and we don't know why. I would imagine that this is how Cinderella felt when the stepmother found out she went to the ball, met her prince, and then made it her point to remind her that she was not good enough. But we know that that wasn't the end of the story. In the Bible, Jesus tells a story about a treasure in a field in Matthew 13:44 through 46. The kingdom of heaven is like the treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again. And then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. The man finds the treasure, and he hides it. And to the world, they think he's nuts because he's selling everything he has for this field, and they don't know why. Have you ever wanted something so badly that you gave up everything because you knew what it was? How many here know that in these two stories, the merchant who buys the pearl and the man who buys the field, that's Jesus. And the field that has the treasure and the pearl, that's us. And let me tell you, folks, that's how bad he wants you. Towards the end of the movie, Cinderella's prince finds her. And as she's walking down the stairs, you see a glimpse into her mind that she has to make a choice. Do I stay as I am and being told of who I am, or do I accept his love? So in complete transparency, when she approaches him, this is what she says. I am not a princess. I am not a servant. I have no parents, not even a dowry. Will you take me as I am? If you come to Jesus and you say that same question, will you take me as I am? I believe this is how he'll respond. He will look straight into your heart and he will say, I know your hurts, I know your struggles, and I know your pains. I know why you see yourself as weak. Let me hold you. Let me heal you. Let me remind you who you are. Let me care for you and lift you up. You are the one I died for. You are the one I want. You are my favorite one. Because, baby, you are beautiful and you are perfect. You are enough and you are mine if you will let me. The greatest love story that man has ever known is yours. If this is something that you are craving, if this is something that maybe you've met him, but you've let the world come in, maybe you've, lost what it feels like to be loved. Let today be the day that you step out and you let him come in and let no stone unturned come find you, love you, and embrace you wherever you are. Make the choice to accept him. Don't let what the world says in. Don't take what they say as that he isn't enough. He is. He proved that to us. Now it's your turn to be loved on. Embrace it.